Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation and suddenly realized you have no idea what was just said? Or driven somewhere familiar and arrived with almost no memory of the journey? Or looked in the mirror and felt, just for a moment, like the person looking back at you was somehow a stranger? If any of that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And there's a good chance no one has ever explained to you why that happens. Today, we're going to talk about something called dissociation. And my guess is, by the end of this video, more than a few of you are going to feel genuinely seen. Maybe for the first time. Dissociation is one of those words that gets used occasionally in mental health spaces, but rarely gets the full, honest explanation it deserves. And that matters, because millions of people are living with this experience every single day, quietly wondering if something is wrong with them or simply not having any idea that what they're going through even has a name. So today, we're starting at the beginning. We're going to look at what dissociation actually is, how it shows up in real, everyday life, where it comes from, and why, despite how common it is, it so often goes unrecognized, even by the very professionals people turn to for help. This isn't a clinical lecture. Think of this as a conversation, one that I hope feels like a little bit of relief. At its most basic, dissociation is a disconnection, a kind of gap between you and your thoughts, between you and your body, between you and the present moment, or even between you and your sense of who you are. Now, here's something important to understand right away. Dissociation exists on a spectrum. On one end, there are very mild, everyday experiences like daydreaming or getting so lost in a book that the world around you disappears. Most of us have been there. But further along that spectrum, dissociation becomes something more persistent, more disorienting, and more disruptive to daily life. And that's the territory we're really exploring today. When dissociation runs deeper, it can feel like you're watching your own life from a distance, like you're a passenger in your own body, rather than the one in the driver's seat. Some people describe it as living behind glass. Present, technically, but somehow not quite there. Others experience it as a kind of inner fog, where thoughts feel slow, feelings feel muted, and the world around them has a slightly unreal quality. None of this means someone is crazy. It doesn't mean something is fundamentally broken. What it means, and this is so important, is that at some point, a mind did exactly what it was designed to do. It protected itself. Dissociation doesn't appear out of nowhere. It has roots, and those roots are almost always found in early experiences that were too overwhelming for a young nervous system to process. When a child grows up in an environment where they don't feel consistently safe, whether that's because of trauma, neglect, abuse, or even a more subtle experience of emotional unavailability from caregivers, their developing mind and nervous system have to find ways to cope. And one of the most powerful tools the mind has is the ability to disconnect, to step back from an experience that is simply too much to stay present for. Researchers like Bessel van der Kolk have spent decades showing us how trauma lives in the body and the nervous system, not just in our memories or our thoughts. And what we now understand is that when a child experiences this kind of early relational pain, what's often called attachment trauma, dissociation can become a habitual response, a default setting that the nervous system returns to again and again, even long after the original danger has passed. In other words, dissociation was never the problem. It was the solution. A brilliant, adaptive response to an impossible situation.